Well, what a weekend it has been so far in the Premier League. How's my football weekend gone? Well, I went to Lewes yesterday, and I went to see Whiteleaf, my non-league club, who I think is still my non-league club technically. Shall I bore you a little bit with with this story? If you listen to the podcast, you probably already know. But if you've just come across me, on the YouTube, the algorithm said, "Oh, you might find this interesting." Well, you asked for it. Um, so my non-league club was Whiteleaf. I actually live on the south coast, and Whiteleaf is in Surrey. But I used to live in Surrey, East Surrey, just outside Croydon. I used to go and watch Whiteleaf with my mates. They play in a village called Whiteleaf, which is down the bottom of the hill where I used to live. And even when I moved to Shoreham, I still go there. I still bought season tickets, still went back and forth there. And unfortunately, well, the club got promoted into the Isthmian Premier League. And if you know your non league, that is one below the National South. It's quite a high league. It requires a degree of facilities for the home stadium. So you've got to have the pitch has to be a certain quality. There have to be certain facilities around there. The changing rooms have to be to a certain standard. They didn't meet that standard, and the ownership is of the stadium is not the same as the ownership of the club, which we won't get into. And so, really, the club had a choice, which was to remain at the level that they were at and stay at the stadium, or to move to a different stadium, and they elected the latter. We could go into the whys and wherefores of that, whether that's actually the right thing to do. These are things perhaps to have another time. Anyway, so they moved to Cray, which is quite a distance from me, and it's not straightforward for me to get to. And I guess I'm also my nose is a little bit out of joint for them having done it in the first place. I mean, I understand their reasons, and I know people at the club, and they're well-meaning, and I respect that. But yeah, it's left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth. Anyway, I have, and some of my mates have resolved that we ought to go and try and see them on aways, which we didn't do too much of. And the first away that I have been able to get to this season has been at Lewes, which is just down the road from where I live. Well, it's two train rides away from where I live. Famous for its most recent rail derailment. Fortunately, everybody was okay. Well, there were some injuries, but nobody died in that. It was a bit of a dramatic moment. So yeah, it's a bit more famous for that. Also famous for its bonfire, but also it's famous for its somewhat progressive values. And that comes through. I wouldn't characterize it as a left wing club necessarily, but it certainly does have progressive values. It pushes values of equality. So, for example, Whiteleaf turned up in green, and Lewis's colours of I can't remember Lewis's colours now. Is it black and red? In any event, the for people who are colourblind, there's no distinguishing between Lewis colours and Whiteleaf's colours. So for the presumably relatively small number of people in the stadium who would be colourblind, they took the decision, Lewis, to change into their away strip for this game in order to do that. And this is a level of the commitment that they have. Their toilets in that place are excellent, and they are unisex. And they have different types of toilets for different types of people. They have a nice rookery. I think is it a rookery or is it a vegetable garden? Sort of like as one of the old stands or one of the old parts of the stadium. They just put this vegetable patch on, which I assume they probably use for their catering. I don't know. Anyway, it's all very interesting. Whiteleaf lost 3-1. They had two players sent off. The less said about that, the better. But I mean, we were quite. It's not the first time I've been to Lewis, but it's the first time in a long time that I've been there. In fact, it's been 10 years. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a kind of club that you could easily come to love. And given how close it is to where I live, um, yeah, I might be back there more than once during the course of the season. I might even persuade the missus to come and join me. Anyway, so that was my football weekend so far, and then watching football on the television. Which of course is what I did. I missed all the 3 o'clock kickoffs again, UK. We don't watch those anyway on the telly. But obviously, everyone's very excited that Man United lost, and as excited that Hull won. A fantastic result for Hull. Not sure what it means for the rest of the season. But there could be a pattern emerging there, of course. I mean, Manchester City won today just kind of by the skin of their teeth. I think hilarious result probably goes to Brentford beating Tottenham. There's an awful lot of talk about Tottenham and how they will be much better this season, and I think they will be much better this season. But what we also know is that Brentford will not be worse, and I think, yeah, I think Tottenham probably just need a little bit of time to get themselves sorted out, and they're not the only ones as well. Um, Arsenal seem to have everything under control. That win over Coventry, I mean, you could say, ah, well, yes, but it's Coventry. Ah, well, yes, they're a championship side. They may well get relegated this season. And yes, of course, this is all perfectly true. But they are the champions, Arsenal, and they put Coventry to the sword. They finished. The game was over in 60 minutes, less than that. So I mean, that is impressive by any measure. And when you look at the other clubs, you look at how City struggled to win, how Liverpool. I mean, that was a penalty, but yeah, he left it really, really late to salvage a point against a very spirited and a very fun-looking Newcastle side. Um, and yeah, I mean, and obviously United, although I don't know whether or not they would be classed as a title challenger, um, they struggled as well. So I think it's been that kind of a weekend. I think for teams that had a large number of players coming back from the World Cup, they're struggling a bit to get stuff together. My own club, Crystal Palace, did actually have a quite large number of players in the World Cup, and for that and probably other reasons as well, they really struggled. I think under new coach Pierre Sage, and lost 2-0 to Everton. Um, I think possibly the biggest losers of the weekend is Villa, though. I mean, they might well be counting the cost of losing so many top players. I mean, Tielemans and Konza and Rogers all in one window. That's going to be tough to bounce back from, I think. But if you remember, they had a poor start to last season, didn't they? They had some terrible results at the start of the season and actually turned it around spectacularly and became one of the best teams. But I think there is a concern that that was a bit of an outlier because they made a virtue of scoring goals from long range, and defying the XG gods. And I don't know whether or not the XG gods are going to be quite so kind and forgiving this season. So yeah, it's difficult to know what's going on there. I'm assuming that the reason why this is happening is because of squad cost ratio. They have to get players off the wage bill. Um, it's rough to see that happen. And I don't really feel that that is in the spirit of the football. No, I mean, I mean, you can say a lot of things about Villa. I mean, like they're not angels by any stretch of the imagination, but they have built a decent side. And yeah, maybe they kind of have juiced themselves up a little bit, but I mean, I would Villa strike me as being the kind of club that's good for that, and isn't going to let anybody down in terms of finances and debt. And it doesn't feel as though it's quite in the spirit of things to see them have to break up their squad. We see other teams and other clubs, operating on bigger budgets, but really, comparatively speaking, they're probably, in the same kind of situation. So I think it's difficult. I do acknowledge that there has to be some kind of financial fair play. Does have to be some kind of regulation to stop, owners from getting carried away and spending more money than they've actually got. And I do kind of recognise that, but nevertheless, it's tough to see that. But I'm sure Villa will bounce back. So yeah, it's been, an exciting opening weekend. It's good to see the top flight back, in England, and kind of looking forward to seeing the West London derby tomorrow. As I'm recording this, looking forward to seeing what Chelsea can do. I think that a lot of people, including myself, fancy Chelsea maybe to actually be the guys that challenge the Arsenal. Um, Well, so we'll have a look and we'll see from there. Elsewhere, well, the traditional curtain raiser for the Bundesliga season was yesterday, and it was what is usually the same fixture every year, not always, but it was Bayern Munich, the the league champions, and in this instance, double winners last season, playing what would normally be the cup winners. But they won the cup, so they play the second place team in the German Supercup, the Franz Beckenbauer Supercup, as it's called now, and they won quite comfortably, 2-1, I think it was. I didn't get to see that game, but obviously, as someone who follows German football, you can expect me to remark upon German football and the Bundesliga over the course of the season. And yeah, I think I will talk a little bit more about the Bundesliga possibly next week. If I get time, I'm going on holiday next week, so I might not have time. But yeah, I think if you're looking at the Bundesliga in terms of title race, then I think really more than ever, I think it really is probably Bayern's to lose, and the traditional kind of perennial-ish challenger is Borussia Dortmund in the modern era. Not always. Sometimes it's Leipzig, and of course Leverkusen won it quite recently. But Dortmund seem to be happy to fall into a pattern where we're qualifying for the Champions League, playing in the Champions League, finishing in the top four, and mix and repeat. Um, seems to be enough for them. And I'm just concerned that there's a lack of ambition. I like Niko Kovac as a coach, and I think he's done a really good job to stabilise that club. But you're really kind of hoping that they can push on and try and be a bit more ambitious. And I don't know whether or not they've got that in them. And it's kind of, yeah, it's making it as something to talk about, something to produce content on. It's not necessarily the most engaging. That's the title race. The rest of the league, on the other hand, is full of stories, full of drama, full of chaos, and well worth your time if you get into it. But I will get into the Bundesliga on another time. And I think that is that really. I might record a video during the course of the week on something completely different, but that's fine. Because you might not want to listen to something completely different from me, and I don't mind that. So until then, I'll see you in the next video and see you in the video afterwards. And yeah, see you video after. Bye.